go.
Good to go. All right, it's 6:03, it's August 4th. It's the School Board of Somerset School Board meeting. I'll call it to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alicia, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes. Steve Agarwal.
Here.
Corey Miller.
Here.
Ian McDonald.
Here.
Lori Belargin. Here. Bruce Belargin. Danny Erickson. Here. Matt Fugall.
Here. District mission, core values, and protocol reminders are all listed on the agenda. Please take a minute to review those. And when someone is ready, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Motion by Lori, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Corey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2, public comment. I didn't receive any notice, did you? Dave?
I did not. No, looking for someone else. Anyone?
Anybody in the audience that wants to make public comment? Hearing none, we'll move to item number 3, summer school report.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Lindsay Thomas. It's my first year as the summer school coordinator. Thanks for having me. I have a short presentation to share with you. The pictures in the slideshow are our awesome Somerset kiddos, so please enjoy those as I chat with you about our summer school programming and kind of some information about what this year looks like. Linked in this presentation is our course catalog. We have a variety of offerings that our students across the district can participate in. Adventure Camp is an invitation program that is really academic focused. At the elementary school, JK through 3rd graders can be invited by their teacher based on classroom performance and data to get an extra boost of academics. So we offer that just in June. Day camp is offered for students JK through 5th grade. It is an offering where those students stay with same-aged peers in one class for their entire 4 hours of summer school. That was housed primarily at the elementary school with one class. Kelly Emerson used her classroom at the high school. We have our regular K through 8 offerings, which is where you get to sign up for classes, fun classes like Legos or 9 Square or the Chef's Academy. We also offer a variety of credit-bearing high school courses, both in person and online. We also added a hybrid course this year, a speech class that was hybrid for the high schoolers. There are also remedial high school credit offerings. Our Bigger, Faster, Stronger programming, we have that for both the middle school and the high school. I listed it separately because the middle school falls under the regular summer school K-8 offerings, whereas the high school is a little different because they come in really early in the morning, that 6:30 time, well, really early to me, but the summer anyway. And that kind of spans throughout, you'll see that later on. Extended School Year, ESY, is a program where students who are served by IEPs can qualify to have additional special education services throughout the summer based on specific criteria that they have to qualify for. So we have special education students that are served throughout the summer. And then of course our interim days, or what we are referring to as our jumpstart days, which are kind of gearing up to go back to school right before the school year starts. Just some general information about our summer school offerings in June. We served approximately 810 students in the month of June. And I say approximately because it was really hard to figure out exactly how many students we served with some of the reports that Infinite Campus was pulling for me. So I will have more clear numbers on that once I get all the reporting done for the final state report that will be finalized in September or October. And we employed 78 plus staff, and I added the plus there because many of our staff served as substitutes for our summer school teachers as well. everyone who was on staff that wanted a job in summer school was able to get a job working summer school, which is really exciting that we could continue to employ our amazing staff throughout the summer. And then I just listed the offerings that we had there in June. And then in July, we served approximately 735 students, and we employed over 73 staff. Our offerings looked just a little bit different in July because of the change from not having adventure camp. That also is why the enrollment numbers are a little different from June to July because of the adventure camp. And then we didn't have as many students who needed remedial credits to continue to work on those remedial courses in July as we did in June. So numbers changed a little bit there. And then August, we continue to have high school BFS meeting, and then of course our interim days where we will have the opportunity to serve all of our students. And then I just have a few highlights for you. Our summer school staff and students kicked off the new Social Schools for EDU social media campaign. If you were following along on Facebook, there was really great promotion of our summer school programming and really fun highlights. So it was exciting to see that. We had really happy kids. We had great behaviors. Stellar is what I used there. The students did a really nice job this summer. And that goes to the amazing staff that we had working. The staff were happy, they were engaged. It's fun to be around during summer school. Another thing that I wanted to highlight was swimming lessons. We partner with the center in New Richmond for swimming lessons, and we had really high numbers for swimming lessons. We had, first session, we had groups of 25 and 27, so like over 50 kids each session that were getting swimming lessons, which is really important for our community that we offer that. And it's really nice that we were able to collaborate so well with the center to offer those swimming lessons, and with Safeway for the busing to get us to and from swimming lessons. We had 2 groups going there and back, so big partnership with Safeway for swimming lessons. Other highlights include collaboration. We had a lot of different ways that we collaborated. Jessie and I collaborated a lot to get things rolling for our students who are served by IEPs. Collaboration between Sarah Culling and I she coordinates a lot of the high school stuff with the credit and remedial courses for the high schoolers. And we had some great communication throughout. We had a couple big incidents pop up in summer school, and we tried to handle those with clear and accurate communication as those popped up. And then finally, just wanted to highlight just the big variety of classes and courses that students got to participate in. And what's next? So a summer school family survey went out, continuing to get responses come in from that. So I'll be looking at that. Well, I've already started looking at that, and Dr. Grambo and I have had some conversations about how we want to use that feedback from the families to make decisions for summer school 2026. So we'll continue to look at that. I will be sharing that information out with the summer school staff too, so that there's that transparency with them. Then we get to complete the DPI report, which includes some student count information, including open enroll students that open enrolled to come to our summer school programming. I was really excited to bring my son with me this year. He loved it, so he'll be one of those numbers in there. All of that goes toward the money that we get for our summer school enrollment. I also will be reporting on the money that we collected from families and the money then that we spent on the students and what the students got for the money that was collected. We have to make sure that we spend every cent of the money that we collect on the students. And then I'll also report on the instructional minutes for both the high school and just the regular summer school offerings and day camps. And again, like I said, we've already started some conversations about summer school 2026, but we are, believe it or not, already planning for that, and that will be continuing to happen. We want to increase opportunities for even more participation, which benefits the district in a variety of ways. So Troy Wink and I were having some conversations of how we can maybe even last minute increase some things. We didn't get there this year. It was a little, it was in the middle of summer school that we were having those conversations. So those will happen for summer of 2026. Families are providing input on some courses or some activity areas where students might want to have some classes offered. So we'll be taking a look at that and hoping to offer a new variety of courses. And then Act 20, which you've heard a lot about, but there is a new requirement that summer school will be heavily involved in regarding offering summer school for students who need that extra boost. So I will be collaborating a lot with Sarah and then Mindy Shoup to make sure that our summer school programming meets the requirements of Act 20 for those remedial and academic reading boost requirements for Act 20. All right, that is what I have for you.
Any questions?
Do you know how our participation numbers compare to previous years? I know we took a dip during COVID in 2020, and we've been slowly increasing. Can you give us any details about that?
Yeah, I can't because this being my first year and having a different coordinator last year, I wasn't able to find any information that compared directly to the information that I have already. Once I have the report done in September or October for the state report, then I'll be able to look back at last year's report and I'll be able to do that comparison. I know swimming lessons was a huge increase, but that's the only for sure accurate information that I can give you on the comparison for years before, and just that will be coming when that state report is done.
Was swimming lessons filled up, or was there still space, depending on how much capacity the center has?
So the center did not give me a number of what it would be full at, other than, no, you can't bring all 52 kids at one time, which is why we did an 8 to 10 and then a 10 to 12. So I felt like there was still some space in there. They do like to keep the groups small for swimming lessons, but.
And then, when did you say when the survey is available and how it's sent out?
I sent the family survey out to the families via Infinite Campus Messenger, and I have not turned off responses on that. This week I will probably do just a reminder, if you haven't filled this out, please do, because I want that for sure wrapped up before we get back into the school year.
Anything else?
Just real quick, as I'm sure you could tell, Lindsay did a great job with summer school. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot of moving parts, from staffing to planning, and already has a vision moving forward of where we can go and how it can grow. And then on top of all that, there's a lot of management, just day to day, and things that pop up, and did an amazing job, so thank you, Lindsay,
Thank
for that.
you.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, item number 4 is the 2024-2025 bullying harassment report. This has to be reported out by statute, correct?
Correct. Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
it's all you.
So Alicia's gonna share, it's pretty basic. Like I said, it's just our mandated reporting time. Wanna go to the second one, or can you just me? So these are just the reporting trends, over time, so you can see the current school, or the last school year for 24-25, the different categories of the pupil non-discrimination. So we've got the sexual harassment, so we had 3 reported incidents there. Racial harassment for last year, we had 10. Sexual orientation, we had 1. Disability harassment, we had 0 last year. So I included the previous 2 years data that I had. So I didn't have the 22, 23 for the disability harassment. Also important to note, some of the times these incidents come up, they can fall into 2 different categories, right? So they could fall into a disability and a racial harassment, depending on the circumstances that surround that. And then, so just to kind of look at the overall kind of more preventative things that we put in place to address the, strategies to address the harassment that might take place. Kind of one of the bigger areas is the restorative practices, right, that we have in all of the buildings, both the community building circles and then those conflict resolution circles to kind of address, after something has happened. We have different character education programs, and then we pull in some of the different resources from, at our elementary school, we've got the responsive classroom, top 20, why try, character counts, right, all of those different resources that we're pulling in to try to address kind of some of these basic principles. And then a variety of other things like our school counseling lessons and groups, different safety plans that we have in place, just family communication and involvement that we have with our students and families. We've run the Respect and Courage retreats, and then the high school leadership training and the peer mentoring, and then also just knowing that, yes, we want to put all of these pieces in place for some of those preventative measures, but then also knowing that we have some traditional consequences as well for the situations, kind of dependent on the situation or the number of times that something might have happened. And then finally, just knowing that we have to report it out to the state, kind of the different numbers, and then how they were resolved, whether it was a formal kind of resolution process or informally. So just to note that last year, all of our incidents were resolved informally. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I guess I have a concern regarding, uptick in racial bullying. We've had parents that have left the district for bullying. They pull their kids out of school. Just wondering what can be done about that. I'm concerned about that, and it looks like we have an uptick in bullying and sexual harassment as well. And for a small school, seems concerning. So
Yeah.
I always question restorative practices, how that really works in the circles, and if that's really effective, maybe more traditional discipline. I don't know.
I'll jump in there, and
Yeah,
it's a good question. There's 2 things to consider. One is the numbers are overall decreasing, which is good, but then we have that opportunity to kind of focus in. Where are the areas that we are especially concerned? Certainly we want them all to decrease, but there's part of it too. We want to make sure that if there's never a situation where someone is feeling bullied or harassed and they don't report it because they don't feel comfortable reporting it. So there's 2 things that happen that we need to focus on. How do we make sure that everyone feels they have a voice and can report that? So some of our strategies will be around opening up avenues to allow reporting. And we've got some ideas around that. In terms of the specifics, a lot of it is the proactive work. Your point about traditional consequences, can you go back to that slide? Another way to think, you don't pick and choose, like this one is going to be a restorative practice and this one is going to be a family community involvement. They all kind of fit together, and most of the time we're talking about traditional consequences and what do we do in addition to those traditional consequences. It's not a one or the other. When it comes to specific areas, like if we're seeing an uptick with racial bullying and harassment, we've got to consider that both proactively and responsively and reactively. Proactive is what can we do to make the environment safe for all kids so they feel safe, they feel protected. Then there's the responsive. When we start to hear things, what are we going to do because we're starting to notice that maybe things are heating up? What lessons can we put into our advisory? How can we get out in front of it? And then the reactive, if it occurs, it will involve traditional discipline. If there's harassment or bullying of any sort, traditional discipline will be part of that. And then it'll be supplemented. When I think about restorative practices, I always think about them as a layer of something additional. If you have, let's say, a suspension, that student is removed from school, the relationship is damaged in some ways. We want, once that consequence is served, we want to make sure it's a learning experience. Part of the restorative practice is to guarantee it's a learning experience, that it wasn't just a punishment, we forget about it, you serve your 3 days, come on back, we're not going to talk about it. That's part of what the restorative practice is all about. That is one of those terms, it has 1,000 definitions. So we're going to make sure the way we do it is aligned with what we think will be best for our kids.
Thanks for the explanation.
Any other questions? Comments? All right, thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Item number 5, 2024-25 building and department goals. Report out. How do you want to handle that?
How about we go,
Yep.
okay,
We should have
and I know,
starter.
Joe, are you okay with time?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Do you want to just click, Alicia?
I can click.
If you want,
I
I
can
can
look
go.
today.
I have the last slide. so we're-
Okay, there you go.
We're good.
Okay, Joe.
Oh.
Good. All right. So I'll talk first. So for the high school, we had 2 building goals that we had developed coming into last school year. One was centered around reading, writing, and interpretation, that we'd show growth by 5%. Then our other one was specific based on data that we had gone through as a building leadership team that dealt with classmates respecting each other. We had set a goal that by the end of the year, 80% of classmates would feel that their classmates respect each other. These numbers, whether it's the respect goal or the reading, writing, and interpretation goal, were all pulled from data that we pulled from previous years. You would eventually want to see those numbers to increase, but you start somewhere based on where you're currently at. Lots of different results from that, specifically creating 3 90-day plans with goals and action steps that would help us build and achieve those. But one thing that I want to point out is each department, English, math, science, social studies, and Spanish, all created department assessments. So we would have another localized assessment data point for our kids. So we have our standardized tests that the kids take in the spring. So your ACT or pre-ACT secure, but we wanted to have another localized measure to help get a baseline from where our kids are. So if a kid is showing, hey, they maybe struggled on the ACT, how are they showing up locally for us as well, along with our fast bridge screener that we were using. So that was an action step that we had built into this year. Couple of results that I'll point out tonight, but again, we'll do deeper dives on our data at upcoming meetings as well when we report out more in detail. But we were very intentional with our Spartan time groups to focus on kids during that time that are in our target groups. So if you remember the state report cards, a part of the state report card is your target group score. So we were very intentional during our Spartan time around math and reading to really help support students that were identified in the target group by DPI with that. And happy to report in the area of reading, so our 10th grade target group kids grew by 17.9% from 9th grade to 10th grade on their state assessments. In the English subcategory, they grew by 15.92%. And then for our 11th graders, they grew 10.24% in reading. That's from 10th grade to 11th grade on the ACT. And then 21.5 in English. So those are some pretty good gains. You'll notice I don't have a 9th grade score on there because in 9th grade they take the forward exam. So we don't have a good apples to apples comparison for them to show their growth from 8th grade to 9th grade. One change we are making this year is the screener that we use at the high school. We were using the fast bridge assessment. We'll be working through progress learning, which is directly tied and correlates to the ACT and pre-ACT. So we feel confident in doing that multiple times throughout the year. We'll have a direct correlation to help measure our student growth throughout the school year for all of that. Couple other things to point out. So our ACT overall composite grew by 5.17 from the cohort. So if you took a look at them in 10th grade to 11th grade, they grew by just over 5%. And then our pre-ACT 10th grade group from where they were in 9th grade to 10th grade grew by just over 9% as well. And then finally, the last part with the student achievement one that ties into reading, writing, and interpretation, because we felt by targeting that could hit multiple areas for our kids throughout the year. The number of kids in the meeting in advanced on the ACT in the areas of ELA, math, and science, 2 out of those 3 areas were the highest we've had in the past 4 years for our percentage. So we saw all of them increase, which was great, but 2 out of those 3, ELA, math, and science, we had the highest in the last 4 years, so we were really happy with that. Then the second building goal, the one centered around respect, we fell just short of that. We were at 77.7%. However, I would put a little asterisk by that. We did not survey the seniors at the end of the year with that. We were collecting different info with them as they were graduating, so we didn't ask them that targeted question. I feel based on what we saw kind of throughout their experience at SHS, if we would have included them, it's possible we would have hit that 80%. So we just fell short of that goal of 80%. However, it was a significant increase from where we were at the previous year.
Any questions from high school?
Good work.
We had a lot of people doing the right things, and we bit off a lot this year, but our people worked really hard and made progress.
Thanks.
All right, middle school. So middle school focused a little bit more just on our end results here. The biggest thing we're looking at was our proficiency in our ELA, our English and writing and reading areas. A lot of our work centered around the areas of developing key ideas and details, identifying those things so kids truly understand what they're trying to figure out and solve, along with bolstering vocabulary skills across the board. Lots of data out there. We bolster vocabulary across the board. It's going to improve every subject, just not ELA. And you can see that our proficiency rate right there grew pretty significant in the last year from 58.1 to 65.8. We're going to get to show you some more details here later this fall where we've been able to dive in and see where we've definitely got some spikes of really good, and we've got some stuff that, hey, here's our focus here where we can get after a little more this coming year. Connected to that, some of the data at the bottom, we tried to continue to build throughout the year skills within our staff of going into classrooms, observing it, and seeing what someone else is doing. How can I bring that practice in my room or give them some feedback? That was something that came back as a great positive across the board. Staff picked up on things. You went through our building. Eventually we did some share around the table where people were sharing things they're doing in their classroom. Hey, how can I use this in math? I'm doing it in ELA or social studies. And we grew as a staff just with building our tool set that we can use in all of our classrooms, regardless of the subject area. That is something that came back from staff. As you can see, the participation is great. And seeing those skills, you walked into a math room and you see vocabulary as a focus as they're working through the lesson. I mean, we were doing that across the board, and that definitely, the staff's work shows up when we just had another piece of ELA. The things we dove in there, as we were learning more together, 80% of our staff implemented something new that they had not tried before, a strategy in their classroom. Some of those obviously worked great, some of them were so-so, and some people came back and said they had to tweak it this way, and it worked better for me. And that was a learning experience that we could use across the board in our building. And you can see the same idea there with our other piece with key ideas and details. We felt as a whole, as we looked at our data and just as staff, like we had things to support, that we had some good growth and set a good foundation of where we can go from here. So we're excited of where we started and where can we go now.
And it's all Ford exam data?
That one specific sport exam, we are seeing a similar trend in our FastBridge data too, which we do the screeners multiple times per year. And so they correlate fairly similar. But we're using, that's a great question, because what's not there that's embedded is that FastBridge screener and classroom performance. Throughout the year, the way we have our target time as our intervention piece of our day built, kids were fluidly moving in and out of what they need now. If kids' skill set was here, we bump them down in and increase that level of intensive intervention. Or if a kid is up here, what can we do to help promote them going somewhere? That's the hardest one, it really is. It's the hardest one to move the top than the bottom. So that's part of our discussion moving forward, like how can we use that time more to hit that other end too? But that's an embedded piece that happened as part of what we did here.
Okay. Cool.
Any other questions for middle school? All right, thanks.
So elementary,
Also set a forward exam-based goal with all the changes. We set a pretty stretch goal that we wanted to be at 65% meeting or advanced on the forward exam. We reached 61.4%, so we did not reach our goal, but a lot of great things happened. We finished our top 10 tools. I don't know what you'll do if you don't hear me talking about them to you, since I have the last 2 years. But we're in a great place because we had, I've said this to you before, you know, teacher knowledge is what's gonna help us be successful, and now we're working toward, well, what next? How do we continue to grow with our tools? How do we continue to grow in the science of reading and looking at what we can do to really meet the needs of our students? We finished year 2 of UFly implementation, which is now solid in K through 2, getting that solid phonics instruction, which you'll see down below, we're seeing really has a payoff. And as you know, Mindy also shared, but I feel really good about how we implemented the Act 20 requirements in terms of assessment. We rolled out Ames Web Plus assessment, and we wrote a lot of personalized reading plans. And so speaking of those, 36 students reached their plan, you know, moved out of their personalized reading plan. Looking at kind of different ways we assess, so kindergarten is assessed by Ames Web Plus. 75.3% of them were above the early reading benchmark in Ames Web Plus, which was a new assessment for them, similar to FAST, but different enough that we felt really good about them reaching that composite benchmark. And then 4th graders, as you know, are still a part of Fast Bridge screening. They are not in the Act 20 work. So they, 78.7 4th graders were above the benchmark on the A reading encoding assessment. Now that's taking oral sounds and putting them into writing, otherwise known as spelling, right? So that was kind of a newer assessment, and feel that they did really well in that. But the really good news, because you always hear me talking about implementation dip every time we roll something new out, and we did not. We rolled out a brand new math expressions curriculum last year, and we did not have an implementation dip. In fact, we have some really solid looking math data, and our data went from 58.3% proficient last year to 61.9% currently. So that is really, we feel really good about the work we're doing in math, how we're meeting kids' needs in math. We've gotten really good feedback about our new math expressions curriculum. Questions?
You said you didn't meet your goal, but you,
Yeah,
of 65%, but how much did you grow?
not a lot, like a 0.5%. So not as much as we had hoped. But we didn't go down.
No, and I'm kind of surprised that you didn't see an increase, because I mean, when you
So
break
much,
it down.
I know, and that's a great point, Lori, that has us going, okay, what are we doing? So we really, at our leadership team, took a deep look at the top 10 tools and where we can go deeper in, what are we missing, right? What do we need to be?
But when you already, I mean, somebody, I don't remember if it was Trent or Joe, said when you, the hardest kids to move are the ones that are already up there. So when you have that many kids who are already
Right.
proficient or above, to try to increase that is harder.
Right.
And the kids that are tested are not necessarily the ones that are receiving a lot of the focus of the new learning, because there's so much with Act 20.
Right.
And that's really focused pre-K 2 or pre-K 3.
Right.
So a lot of the energy is there, so only a small slice are tested. So the hope is that you invest really, really well. The biggest bang you get for your buck in terms of professional learning, investment in student support, is the younger they are. The younger they are, the better off. So you invest really well there, and then you see those dividends pay off as they work through the system. So the hope would be that we would see those gains on the screeners that aren't tested at the state level early on, and then we'd see that roll up throughout as they move through the system.
And especially looking at 3rd grade coming up, because they will have had
Yep.
the solid phonics
Mhm.
instruction.
Do you think the summer remedial reading program, would that help? Do you think?
Do you mean the one
Yeah.
upcoming with Act
Next
20?
year?
Or the one that adventure camp?
Well, the way I understand it, Adventure Camp, is that for the students that already are like excelling and need more?
No, adventure
The other
camp
way?
is more of a teacher invites
Okay.
students to kind of keep their skills solid,
Got it.
but it's in June.
Right.
I think it's better than, right, it's a long time from, July and August till we get back to school.
Right.
I think we also have learned a lot more about hitting the ground running. What do our kiddos need, keeping going
What was
with
the
that.
success for that? Did you see
Yeah.
improvement?
I think it's very successful. I think once we move into Act 20, where we have more menu of offerings for kids to keep them strong in their skills, I think we'll see a good payoff on that.
Do the personal reading plans require a lot of extra staff to support that?
They're actually mostly, ours are run by the classroom teachers. So whatever that extra dosage is, whatever the plan is, whatever. And then we have our WIN block, so a lot of the kids are working on their plans during then.
Any other questions?
Is there more details about the data that feeds into this? I mean, it's hard to summarize a lot into one.
So yeah, so right
It's a
now,
broad
the
visual.
data is embargoed at any kind of a detail level. Right now, the numbers that you're seeing are the ones that we pulled directly from DRC, which is our testing company that we use to test.
Okay.
So it hasn't been fully vetted by the state yet. And so once DPI fully vets that, and they're saying we can share this level of data right now,
Gotcha.
but once it all comes out, it is, we just got notification last week that it's in WiseDash for districts, which is what we can see. It's not available publicly yet.
Process.
So, yeah, it is a process, and it is a little bit earlier than last year because we actually did see the data at the end of May, which we have never had before. That is, I guess, one of the benefits of Act 20 as well, is we have to have that data at the end of the school year in order to be able to craft those reading plans and to see what kids we need to invite to summer and that sort of thing. So, yes, it's a process. They have to go through all of their vetting because the numbers that we will see don't include the kids that opt out of a test. And so if a family chooses not to have their child tested, it counts against our proficiency rate as a district. So we always try to encourage families to take the test, but we know that that's a hot button item as well. So once we have the green light to be able to share fully, you will get some more details out of this.
So you guys must track also those numbers of students who are.
The percentage that opt out, yes, we do. And it varies from year to year.
Is that trending up or trending down, or is it all over the place?
It went down this year because there were students that I know that Pam had opt out in the elementary school that did not opt out at the middle school this year. And so it's not a large number of students, but sometimes the population of students that chooses to opt out can impact like some of our subset data, not some of our different groups. So
It's a flaw in the evaluation system, though, that we're held accountable for
Right.
kids that aren't tested.
yes,
I mean, that should not, we want to respect a parent's choice to say, you know what, I'm not comfortable having my student or my child take that test. But if that decision is made, then that shouldn't be counted against us. So we let the state know that we don't like that.
So when we talk with teachers about it, we look at the data for the kids that we've tested. So because those are the ones that we can have our impact on.
One for Trent, you said Fastbridge got changed, you switched from Fastbridge to something, what was that again? Progress.
Anything else? Are there other departments?
Yes, our goals
You
don't
guys-
look quite numbery like this, but yes, we do. There you go.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so mine looks a little different because I started after the school year got up and going, when goals were set. So I just kind of did a review, a reflection on things that I learned this year since becoming a Spartan again. So areas that we're really good at, inclusion is the norm here. And I think that's a really positive strength of ours. It's our starting point for our least restrictive environment. It's not going to be least restrictive for all. Some kids, they do have to come out and have some of that specialized instruction in a different setting. But the majority of our kids are in with peers as much as possible. And it's not a special ed versus general ed. There are kids, and how are we going to get their needs met, which is really, really positive. Another thing, staff really like data. They want to access it, they want to learn from it, they want to make adjustments kind of based on it. It is so cool to see how many staff are diving into EduClimber, asking for more training, how they know how to navigate that system. It's a huge benefit to us and will benefit our kids in the long run. And like you heard all the principals talk, we've got great systems in place to support all kids based on their needs. Our schedules really align with, okay, if kids need different intervention time, we're shifting, we're getting them with the teacher teachers that have that specialty, and then that's when also our special ed intervention time, their specialized instruction can take place, so sometimes those are huge barriers, and I feel like we have a really good system in place. Some areas of growth, I did some surveys and just with talking with staff, just more paraprofessional training opportunities, which were, like you guys have heard me talk about with the ES3 grant, we're sending, I think over 20 paras to the Para Summit coming up next week. I worked on and developed a para training guidebook, and new this year, we're doing para mentors. So any of our new paras that come in, they will have an assigned mentor. They're gonna kind of work through the training guidebook. There's gonna be a lot of different opportunities to really give them some additional professional development, which I'm really excited about. Another just kind of ongoing is just we know that we have more diverse learners. They need to access different tools to meet all of their needs. So just we were looking at some different resources. We've had some really great gains with IXL for math. And so we did a pilot last year for IXL for ELA, and it was really positive. And so we're gonna look at that, adding that resource, and then looking into maybe even exploring science and social studies too, for some of those more really unique learning needs.
Questions?
It's called IXL.
IXL.
UIE.
No.
Nope.
Letter
I
I.
dash.
Letter I.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just the 3 letters.
Oh, I
in
see,
there.
yeah.
Thank you.
It's a program we've used for a while, but
Yeah.
expanding the use is
Yeah.
great.
I'm hoping that the additional paraprofessional training and the mentoring program will also help us retain more of
Yep.
our paraprofessionals.
Yeah, give them the skills and tools that they, can use as a professional, yeah.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
One more?
Just me. All right. So my biggest goal last year was to kind of learn all of the parts of this job, and not learn so that I'm an expert at all of them, but learn all of the things that I didn't know were part of it. And so one of the biggest areas that I knew going in I was going to have to work on is just understanding the budget, because working with federal funds is very different than working with just district provided ones where we have that flexibility. So with Title I, you can only spend it on certain things. Title II is on professional development, leadership for teachers and administrators. And then Title III, Jesse oversees, but we get like this much, and CISA manages most of it. And then Title IV has been a flat rate, but that is where you're able to bring in like some kind of technology or something for the betterment of teachers and improve student learning. So the funds, so I knew I had to learn on that part, as well as how can I still support all the work that needs to happen in the buildings. And so getting as much professional development for our teachers, because we know when the adults learn more, the kids are learning more as well. The resources, and then that teacher growth. So I did have a CISA assigned mentor. He worked in another district, which was great. He and I were very proficient at Google chatting one another when we had questions and that sort of thing. And so he's a touch point for me to be able to continue to reach out to. CISA does a really nice job of supporting kind of both hats that I wear, which is the district assessment coordinator as well as the curriculum coordinator for the district. And so I attended both the curriculum coord's meetings as well as the district assessment board meetings that CISA put on, in addition to all of the educator effectiveness meetings, because I'm the one who oversees and sets up everything for our teacher evaluation system as well. And then met weekly with principals and Jesse to plan and support their work on their 90-day plans. And I would say we did a really great job about like never canceling. Like that was kind of sacred big rock time on our calendars. Because they're all coming with different needs, and then my job is to work with them to try to figure out a way to help them get that done, ask the right kinds of questions to promote some more thinking. And so those were really valuable, and we've continued for the most part kind of over the summer. It's a little trickier with our vacations and whatnot, but to continue that work. And then last week led kind of 2 days of leadership and professional development, kind of looking forward with our PLC leaders in each of the buildings going in started now for 25-26. So I still don't know all the hard parts of my job. I'll be the first to admit that, but I'm certainly learning a ton and love the work and love being able to work at this level. Goal number 2, which you've heard a lot about, is Act 20. Really working because I came on the year it became law, so I had no real prior knowledge of all of the things. I learned a lot. Worked very closely with Pam and Mindy at the elementary school. I learned a whole lot about Ames Web Plus. I became a little techie in there, which was good, and so we were able to learn that piece. And then I utilized as well EduClimber. We could build those personal reading plans, build a template for it, and then so if kids hit a certain threshold on any of their screeners, it can automatically populate a reading plan, and then we can pick from a menu of options for how we want to intervene. That was a huge time saver this winter when we actually had to enact it. It was awesome that all of our PK to 4 teachers are trained in top 10 tools. There's a lot of elementary schools that are just stopping it at 3rd grade. We have chosen on purpose to do our 4th grade teachers as well, because as you know, class sizes can change. A 4th grade teacher may end up teaching 2nd grade at any given point, and we want to make sure that we are set up for the success of all of our students. I would like to also shout out our 4th grade teachers though this year who asked for some additional resources that were going to support the work of the top 10 tools, so that we were able to add Morpheme Magic, which just takes the phonics learning that kids have and take it to the next level. So I was able to support that this year. Continuing our learning with EduClimber, we did a lot with it last year as a district. On one of the flexible days we had last year, staff were able to attend virtually some baseline training. And then next week, if staff are available and would like to come in as one of those flexible PD days, we have an in-person trainer coming next week to kind of do the next level of EduClimber training, so that teachers can not just look at the data, but interpret it and then set it up to best meet their needs so they can help kids. So did a whole lot with Act 20 and EduClimber and learning this role last year.
Questions?
More of a comment, I just really appreciate the tone of like the good and like be real transparent, like this still needs work, that needs work, so the delivery is excellent, appreciate that. What are you, like a month in, Dave? Like any?
It honestly does not feel like that. It feels like I've been here for quite a while. It's been going really, really well. And Jessie pointed out in her presentation, talked about the fact that the teachers are like hungry for the data. They want to know what's working. They want to know what they can do better. That's a huge deal, and that's a compliment to everyone around this table that supports that. That takes a lot of work, because teachers are busy. They've got a lot on their plate. So data is often seen as an additional thing that they don't have time for. That's not the case here. And also, everyone that presented tonight, they're in the same boat. They want the data. They want to understand. The work that Sarah's done to get teachers on board with EduClimber is a big deal, because it's a lot to learn. It's not necessarily really easy to learn. It takes a lot of investment. So that's huge. We're very excited about our next steps. So Sarah mentioned the PLC leadership work that principals and Sarah and Jessie all did a lot of work to make that be a really meaningful experience for teacher leaders. I'll talk about it a little bit later on in one of my reports. But that work set the stage for now our work. So later this week, we're gonna be meeting as an admin team and looking at that data and sort of aggregating it and seeing, okay, now what are the district themes that emerge from this and what can we do? In the future, we're gonna wanna reverse that, where we're gonna look at the district themes first, big picture, and then see how we can support that at each level. We just couldn't do that this year. There's a lot of us new in our positions, so we just didn't have the time to do that. But the PLC leadership team, they did great work too. Amazingly positive. They were having fun, doing really hard work, and they were doing that in July. So often trying to convince school folks to come in and work in July can be a bit of an arm twist. Not at all. They were excited and raring to go. So it's been really, really good.
Hopefully you saw the social schools post
Yeah.
today, because we're out there. Sorry.
Sorry about that. I just had one other thought about ELA and the elementary school and bumping up that score. Is there any sort of like, and maybe you're already doing it, but some sort of campaign for parental involvement just to like, I don't know, just help more?
Talking about engagement?
Yeah, I think parents could help be involved.
And I think teachers often try to give
Yeah.
suggestions and ideas, and
Right.
it's a tricky answer,
Yeah.
because there's there's a lot going on. We have a lot of really great volunteers that come into our schools and work with kids. We have high school kids that come in and work with kids. We've tried to balance homework and not having homework and all that kind of in response to parent surveys. So it's a work in progress, like what is best for our kids. We have a really long school day too. I mean, 7-hour school day is higher than, it's a pretty long school day. So the home piece, we love it for kids to read at home every night, but that's kind of the stop, right? Like we don't want them doing too much.
Well, great, thanks for those reports. Policy 5461 is part of this. Do you want to talk about that? Or does that fall into somebody's?
Did you have that one, the at risk of, we have the requirements? That's a no.
I was like, I did not.
Okay, then I will talk about it. This is just an annual requirement that we need to revisit this policy and reaffirm the policy essentially. So this is, honestly, I think what we probably want to do is, because I believe there are some numbers we need to get for you. So what we'll do is put this on next agenda and get those numbers, because I believe that there's a requirement that we have some hard numbers, and that's on me. I think we were all thinking someone else was doing this one, so we'll bring that back at the next meeting.
And that's just a report out, there's no action?
There's no action, no.
Okay, so it'll just come back?
Yep.
Perfect, okay. Any questions on that policy?
I hope not.
Item number 6, superintendent report.
All right, so this one I'm prepared for. So a couple things. First of all, we have 2 referendum invoices. One is a tiny one and one a little more sizable, but all expected invoices that we bring to you each month. We have them. As we saw in the tour of the Performing Arts Center, we're closing things up, which is great. We're getting to that point of just a few big rocks in that process, and then it'll just be fine detail. So super excited about that, and it's great that we are on schedule for the open house and the grand opening on the 27th of September. Couple things on Welcome Back Week that I wanted to talk about, or Welcome Back events. There's a lot going on. We just talked about the PLC work. That's a big deal. The work that the PLCs are doing, PLCs, professional learning communities. A professional learning community, the way we look at it and the way it's thought of in best practice, it's the entire district, is a professional learning community. Then we have professional learning community teams that do the work. They put that work into practice. It's just good data science. It's being really clear on what we want kids to know, what we want them to be able to do, and then measuring that and figuring out, well, what do we do if they need support? What do they do if they're already there, and how do we move them to the next level? The team that was preparing that, their job now is to support their teams when they come back to school. So each team feels really squarely focused on meeting the needs of all their kids. It's a very proven strategy to make sure that we're in a process of continuous improvement. But you'll often hear with professional learning communities, well, you've been training on this for like the last 5, 6, 10, 12 years. When are you gonna have it figured out? The answer is never. It's an ongoing process that constantly needs to be supported, and you have to invest time in it. Kids change, our curriculum changes, needs change, and just making sure that everyone is sort of feeling refreshed and engaged in that process is important. So big thanks to the team. Sarah really took the lead on that, and it was very productive learning. And like I said, kind of early in that professional learning cycle that you typically see in a year. So that's a sign of strong engagement by our staff. Then we have this week, new staff coming back. So already tomorrow we'll have our new staff back, which is great. We're at 21 and counting new staff members. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit as well. And all you can do during this time is prioritize the most important areas. If you imagine being a new staff member coming to a school, especially if it's your first job, it's a massive amount of information coming at you. We often describe it as drinking from a fire hose. It's coming at you, but there's so much we still need to make sure they have so they feel successful and prepared. So a lot of this is sort of initial messages, plant the seeds, and we'll come back and support them throughout the rest of the time. Mentors will be involved this week supporting the new staff. We'll have Sarah will be leading a bus tour, which will be great, and we'll have lunch with new staff at Not Justa, which will also be fantastic. just a lot of fun stuff, a lot of energy. This is the time we've all been waiting for. It's not that we are very, very busy during the summer. We are planning for this time, when staff comes back, and then obviously more importantly, in a couple of weeks, when kids come back. So that gets us to our big welcome back week, when all staff are back, August 18th to 21st. A lot of professional learning there as well, a lot of support, but also a balance, making sure that teachers have enough time just to do their work in their classrooms and prepare for kids. And then 3 weeks from tomorrow, we will be welcoming all kids back in the school, which is amazing to say. That it comes really fast, but super excited, a lot of great energy already, and a lot of good support during these welcome back times. Any questions on any of that? Alrighty. And then this is really quick. Staffing updates. Just wanted to, again, a lot of the work that happens during the summer is preparing to get our schools fully staffed. Every year, that has become more challenging. It will continue to be more challenging. There are labor shortages across the board, not just in education. Everyone's dealing with this right now, so we need to do a lot of work to make sure we are the most attractive regional district for folks to come in and work. And we believe it is. We believe this is a great place to work, a great place to serve. So we need to continue to tell our great story so people understand this is the place we want them to be. Since last year, so some of the hiring started already last school year, but for this school year, we've hired 9 certified staff, 3 long-term subs, and then some office support, and some actually additional certified staff since then. And then paraprofessionals, we've hired 3, and then supervisory folks, 3, for that total of 21. But we are not fully staffed yet. We still have positions to fill, so that will be ongoing. I want to mention that right now, we have 3 open special education paraprofessional positions. They're amazingly critical positions, and my next report will be about that. I was supposed to put on this agenda, and I forgot to put this one on, but a request for a new paraprofessional. We'll talk more about that. We'll bring that forward for the next meeting, and that's when we would be looking for action anyway. But just wanted to plant the seed as part of the staffing report that it's at the elementary level. It's about meeting the needs, very specific special education needs that have been identified, and we need some more support to make sure we can meet the needs of all those kids. But more on that in a couple weeks. So any questions on the general staffing report? Hearing none. Special education paraprofessional recruitment and retention proposal. This goes back to what we're saying. Jesse and I have been having a lot of conversations really since I've been on board, and we both knew this would be an issue, right? We knew that hiring special education paraprofessionals is a challenge. It is one of the most challenging jobs we have in a school district, and it's no different here than any other district. It's an amazingly challenging job. When you get someone that loves that work because they see the payback and they see how that investment pays off, they're worth their weight in gold. It's a really challenging job. When we think about the needs that we'll often talk about, the diverse needs, the variety of needs that students could bring into the system, our job is to do our best to meet their needs. And one of the ways that we often have to do that is to increase support. Paraprofessionals are the people that are on the front line doing that work. As I said, we have 3 positions that are unfilled right now, and we'll be asking for another. We don't even know if we'd be able to fill that, but we have to put forward the proposals that we think would meet the needs. So this proposal is based on 2 concepts. Both are recruitment, and one is more retention. So the recruitment side is looking at authorizing the use of signing bonuses for special education paraprofessionals. The proposal is a $1,500 signing bonus, but to be paid over 3 increments. First, $500 after 6 weeks of successful employment, then at 12 weeks, and then the last $500 after the first 6 weeks in year 2. So that's the retention piece. So you get $1,000 in that bonus in your first year after being hired, and then that $500 the subsequent year after 6 successful weeks. Then the other side of this proposal has to do with credit reimbursement. One of the best pipeline pathways we can have is having special education paraprofessionals decide to go back and become licensed special educators. This really applies to any paraprofessional, but it most often happens from a special education paraprofessional. They learn to love the job and they realize they have more to offer and they think about going back to school and becoming licensed as teachers. The shortage of special education teachers, we're just at the point of having it become, it's been a challenge for quite a while. It's getting to the point of being a crisis. It also a very challenging job. So what this would do, a paraprofessional, if they decided to enroll in school to become a licensed special educator, they could apply in the current year. So if this were approved, they could apply in the 25-26 school year. Upon successful completion of those credits, so they'd have to pass the class, submit their transcripts, so on and so forth, and have up to $1,000 of that expense reimbursed the following year. It would be, again, reimbursed the following year, because if they're being trained to be a special educator, we'd love to get first crack at hiring them in our system. So those are the two elements. It's a relatively small group of people, so there's some cost controls built into this. It's not huge dollars. We're hoping it's significant enough to make a difference. Part of it is money's money, right? People need money. That's important. But also sending the message that we understand that it's very challenging work and we want them to feel valued and honored. The one thing though that is really important to understand, it's mainly about the employment market. And the reason I say that is we have a lot of people in our system that have amazingly difficult jobs. And they come to work happy and invested and they work really hard to meet the needs of our kids. But they might not be in a position that has the same market conditions. And we can't afford to do this sort of bonus structure for everything. We have to do it where the market is demanding it to be done, and we believe this is the place. So I'll certainly answer any questions, but the intent would be to bring this back at the next regular board meeting for consideration. Questions?
I think it sounds like a great idea, but I have a concern about the first question I can hear in my head from our current special ed aides who have been in the district for years and years and have been loyal to the district and work really hard. There's nothing there for them. How can we address that?
Yeah, and that's, so.
I mean, I don't want them quitting.
Yeah, no, we don't either. And you're right. You're absolutely right, Lori. So there's two things. One, I think it would be very reasonable to consider some sort of longevity bonus, like paid after every 5 years, something we could consider for this specific crew. I think that would be very reasonable. Right now, this proposal is really to address the fact that we have the 4 positions, or 3, potentially 4. So I think with a little more time, considering that addition would be good to consider. I would also say though that when we start talking about pay structure, there should be a pay differential, overall pay differential for special education paraprofessionals, that I believe their wages should be bumped up and at a greater rate than the rest, because it is that challenging. So there's 2 things we could certainly consider, and I appreciate you bringing it up, I agree with you.
So in our human resources department then, would there be tracking of the people who got the signing bonus? And that, because if they got the signing bonus, then in my head, I'm thinking they would not be eligible for the other bonus that you're talking about for the people that have already been hired who didn't get this signing bonus.
Right, so so right now there's the 2 things in the proposal, and then we're sort of talking about a third. So the 2 would be independent. So if we offered a signing bonus and they decided to go back to school, they would be eligible.
I'm talking about
The every 5 years?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if we would do that, you have to have a starting point, right? You can't go, well, you've been here 20 years, so we're gonna go back and do 4 of them. There's like, from this point forward, when you hit your 5-year anniversaries, there could be a dollar amount that would be put forward. And I would say that that would be something we would consider, and especially consider until we have a differential in the compensation, because we could get to a point where that differential is significant enough. You want it significant enough. So let's say we hire a paraprofessional, or not in special education, but they're amazing. We're like, you know what, you'd be really good to make that move into the special ed paraprofessional role. and they look at the difference in the wages, and they're like, yeah, that, I could see that that would be significant enough that I would consider that. So that's what we'll be thinking about and bringing forward when we talk about wages.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, I agree with that approach of supply and demand.
Mhm.
It's just common sense, and anybody that kind of complains about it, it's kind of like, well, welcome to the working world, right? So
It's
just what it is.
a market like anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Alexander, is that yours still?
So now we're moving on to policies. So yeah, this is a set of policies. If you remember, we talked previously about when we brought Dr. Harold on as our medical advisor, and there was a series of policies that needed to be reviewed by our medical team. They did that review, and the recommendation is no changes to the policies listed below. So they didn't have any, they thought everything looked solid in those policies.
Does that need action, or that's just information?
Just information now, yeah, and we just have that as part of the regular policy cycle.
Thank you.
I was gonna say.
No questions on that. The last thing is employee handbook recommendation. Again, very straightforward. The only recommended changes were names resulting in personnel shifts and dates. So nothing substantive in terms of the recommendations and the changes to the employee handbooks.
And that'll come back in 2 weeks for
Yep.
approval?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Any questions on any of that stuff from Dr. Granville? Excellent. Item number 7, Neola policies. Lori or Danny, do you want to take this?
These were included in all the policies that we updated and went through in July, and they were included in that attachment. They just were not listed out separately, so, yeah, they're all good to go.
We don't need action on these?
We will,
In 2 weeks.
because, well, they were in the.
So were they part of that other?
They were in the attachment, but they weren't listed separately on the agenda. So I guess it's up to our discretion as to whether we could just approve them tonight, because they've already been on the agenda twice. This is actually the third time. So I'd be fine with approving them tonight, so I'll make a motion
Okay.
that we approve these adopted policies, the updates to the 5 policies listed in 7A1, and adding the 3 policies listed in 7A2.
Motion by Lori, is there a second?
A second.
Second by Danny. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 8, policy 5610.01.
Do you want me to speak?
Yeah, you want to speak to it?
Sure, yeah, I can speak to that one, and thanks to Alicia, she's done a lot of work with Ed from Neola to develop an understanding of what this policy was all about. This is one that just requires an annual reaffirmation. It's not that there are changes to the policy, there are 2 policies related to student expulsion. There's 5610, which is the general description of the process. Generally speaking, it is your responsibility as a Board of Education to determine if a student should be expelled. It's one of the biggest decisions you make as a board, because it's a big deal removing the right to education from a child. It's a big, big deal, and it weighs heavily on boards, obviously. No one wants to get to that point, but it does happen from time to time. 5610.01 allows for the board or district administrator to delegate outside counsel to be the independent hearing officer at an expulsion. That has been past practice here, where Trevor would come in and conduct, you're still making the decision, he just conducts sort of the Roberts rules and the process of that hearing. That's important for a couple reasons. I highly recommend we reaffirm this and continue with it, because a expulsion is considered quasi-judicial, meaning it is like a court case. So it is heavily bound by law. You don't want to get it wrong for a lot of reasons. One, for the due process of that family and that student, to make sure they have their rights respected. Also, often, it's a matter of school safety. So if we get to that point, we don't want to be in a situation where we think an expulsion is necessary, for school safety, and because of some sort of red tape issue, we can't move forward, and it just creates more pain than necessary. So I would highly recommend we reaffirm and approve that policy.
And that can come back in 2 weeks
Mhm.
for action.
Yep.
Everybody has a chance to look through it, ask questions if anything comes up over 2 weeks. Any immediate questions? Perfect. Item number 9, policy 0166. This, Danny asked this come back. I know we talked about it probably 2 months ago now. This is the policy that essentially speaks to board members putting items on the agenda. And I've kind of gone round and around. My opinion at the time, that initial discussion, was that what I don't want to get into the pattern of is somebody wanting something on the agenda. Maybe they send some attachments, they don't get linked, or maybe there's email questions that happen before the meeting and we get into some type of a walking quorum. I am of the opinion, and just based on transparency, I think we should talk about the item and then decide if we want to bring it back. And if we do, that creates a meeting in 2 weeks that we can link all the attachments and have all of the stuff presented, have our conversation, and then still have 2 more weeks to bring it back and truly make a decision. I feel like there has been some times where items come up, there's attachments, we talk about it, and then in 2 weeks we have to decide. And I just want to make sure that we have enough time. So that's my interpretation. I think the policy needs some language clarification, and I don't have that prepared tonight. Even just in my conversation with Dr. Grambo, to put some language in there to say that we don't necessarily always have to do that, because if there is a pressing issue, we don't want 3 times on the agenda. We want to be able to make a decision. So that's my thought. If
So
somebody wants to go.
we do have a draft for this attached to the agenda. Lori worked on that at my request. I'm the one who brought this back because I think what you wanted as a suggestion should be reflected in the policy so that everybody is clear and that draft is linked. Lori at the work session on June 4th said it should be reflected in the policy and come back for first reading, and then the board should approve it. You shared with me by email that you didn't think you were interested in seeing the procedure. You called it procedure reflected in policy, but I checked state statute, and it does not explicitly say the board president can determine procedure. Rather, chapter 120 in state statute says board policy should be referred to when setting the agenda. And my question is, how will a new board member know how to proceed if something is not reflected in policy? I see it creating unneeded confusion, and I'll go a step further. Worse than that, I see this as a deliberate attempt to at times stifle an individual board member who has an idea or a concern that the board majority could choose to not continue when that board member has been duly elected.
And I remember a point being, Matt, and clarify if I misremember something, but wasn't it brought up to, part of the motive was to have more than a second, that was almost viewed as too easy or something? And is that, I don't see that reflected in the draft, so I'm not.
No, I am in full support. If 2 board members want something on the agenda, I mean, even I have acted as a second. If somebody sends something, I'll put it on the agenda. I have no issue with that. My only question was about how do we make sure we all have the information? That's my only thing. And I don't think, I think to get an email on a Thursday when the agenda goes out Friday, I just don't think that's enough time. If and I'll use you. The next topic is the Bill of Rights. So you brought it up, and I'm like, yeah, I'm full support, but I have no idea what you're referring to. So there is some gray, yep.
Because you said you did not want links attached, and how can you make a valid argument for having a discussion about something if you have no context?
Yeah, and I agree with you. So I guess I don't know the best procedure.
So why are we looking at changing the language from the original policy?
Well, and that ultimately is what I told Danny, was that I'm okay with as it is. I don't need to make a change. I'm not in favor of any change. I just want to ensure that we have enough time. That's all. I would like to see us have a conversation, put all of the stuff on the agenda, and then bring it back. So we would talk about things 3 times.
And address the concern that we can accurately share information, openly share information without the fear of quorum.
That's really all I was after. I'm not here to shut anyone's opinions down. I will put everything on the agenda. I just want to make sure we have a good conversation, that's all.
So am I right in assuming that as that rewrite is written, we're adding a step? You can still get your item on the agenda to present it to the board. This is what we want to discuss. Are we gonna move forward with it?
So it still says
And do that at
that,
the next meeting with all of your links attached.
If it makes it there. The
no,
board still
because it
has
still
to-
says individual board members may include items on the agenda upon the concurrence of at least one other board member. So that part stays the same. And so it'll be on the agenda. And, I mean, and that the green sentence was my attempt to put into the policy what I interpreted as what you were trying to say, Matt. So then the item will then be included on the agenda for the entire board to decide whether the item with all supporting documents will move forward to a second meeting
That's not how I
and
interpret it.
then a third meeting for action. So is that what you meant?
Yes, I simply wanted a process where things don't get missed. Things don't get added on Thursday, attachments maybe don't get looked at closely by Monday, and then all of a sudden that first conversation is passed. I think it would be great to have an open conversation about a topic, the parental bill of rights is coming up next, tonight, and then next week, we have all of the information and all of the attachments, and we can have an even deeper conversation, and then 2 weeks after that, that's when we make a decision. That's really all I'm looking for.
And do you think the language that I added reflects that?
Yeah, I can see your concern about, 2/3 of the board saying, no, we don't want to talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, how would they say the first time it's on the agenda, that's with just 2 people.
Right, but it could stop. and not go
Before it
any
gets a
further.
chance for action.
Before it gets a chance for action, because there's been no supporting documents have been allowed yet. It could die tonight, because, I have all these examples and links and research, but haven't been allowed to present it yet.
Right.
And it could die before everybody gets to be fully informed.
Well, that would
There
be a
should be no
board
action the
decision.
first time we discuss it.
Yeah, so I'm good if we can figure out some language to essentially know that a new board member come on and that they need to know that by that first meeting, they don't have to have all of their information. We still have 2 meetings after that.
How do you feel about the rewrite?
I just wanted, the rewrite was, I don't actually like, well, I should say the sentence right after. I'm okay with the rewrite, but, I would like to dive more into the level of specificity of the description of subject matter for discussion shall be determined considering the following. 1, the time and effort required to provide detailed notice. 2, the level of public interest in a particular subject. And 3, whether the meeting will involve routine or novel issues. Like, that whole part is vague to me. Is that?
Is that existing?
Yeah, it is, and we struck at the once around the table portion of the meeting, where we decided we're not gonna do that anymore because that could violate, open meeting laws.
I still think it's a good idea.
And so I see the point for that, but I still don't know where this sentence that I just listed off, if that was related to the once around the table, or if that is relating to the request by email seconded by a board.
See, I think by adding an extra step, that would clarify that because we could talk about, right? I think there is some importance to the level of public interest, the detailed notice piece. That would all then happen right at this table.
I'm trying to think sometimes things need to happen, so we have it set so that if we all are unanimous that it can, unanimous or something, that it moves more quickly, it does, but.
Well, which we could, I mean, because we could,
It can't be easily killed, but at the same time, it, you know.
as long as there's possible action, I mean, the board could make a decision and,
In my understanding from working on policies for many years, is that the sentence that you're concerned about, Danny, that didn't have to do with the board. That had to do with when we want to discuss a topic that would require a lot of research and data to be provided by the administrators. That's
That's what I
where
was
that was
wondering.
coming from.
It was hard to tell. It's hard to tell.
So if we don't, I mean, we could be discussing something that doesn't require documents,
Correct.
right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
why is this even necessary? Why are we changing something that's been working? I just don't understand the reason for it.
Are you talking about the last sentence of the paragraph right
I'm
now?
talking about the green sentence.
It was to accommodate the concerns that Matt was expressing.
No, I understand, but I just don't see the reason for it. I don't see the reason for changing our current policy. I think we should have open discussion. We are elected board members. Our constituents vote on us in. If they raise concerns or we have concerns about any one subject and we want to bring it to the board, we should be able to freely do that, freely discuss it without 3 meetings to make a decision.
And I think 3 meetings is, I mean, I like the 3 meetings, and yet I also think like, that's a lot of agenda time, and we have a lot to work on, and that's, could be, I don't know.
Should try to be
that's
more
fine. If
efficient.
you're all fine with it, I'm fine leaving it. I just don't want things to get missed. I want everybody to have an opportunity to bring everything they want with any supporting documentation. If you think it's accomplished in 2 meetings, I'm fine with that. I don't want the walking quorum in email, and I don't want people to feel like they don't have a chance to be heard. And I thought adding that extra step truly ensures that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. That's all. But if 2 is good, strike it, we'll leave it as is. I'm totally fine with that.
And I really do feel like we've been really careful with not doing
Mhm.
any, like, when I send something out looking for a second, somebody will just say second, and it's over.
Yeah.
There's been no discussion.
But what's the limitation after that to inform the board at the same time of the attachments that you think are useful? Then if someone else gets researching and they go, oh, what about this?
Well, you
additional?"
can't. That's the problem.
That has
So
to
that's
happen
where
here.
the
Right.
so
That's that
Alicia's
sentence.
got to essentially link it if you want it there, because we really can't send it out. And that is where my problem lies. Is now we show up here on Monday night and maybe I didn't see an attachment.
Yeah.
That's
This whole
my
figure
only.
watching quorum thing always promotes individual side conversations and limits group conversation unless it's at the meeting. So I just have,
Because by law, it has to happen here.
yeah, the negatives outweigh the concern of the positive, I think.
We can leave it as is, and if we cross the bridge where we need changes, we can address it then.
However, we do need to eliminate that portion of the sentence that's in red and stricken.
I agree.
Because that still exists in the policy.
It does.
It does, because we changed our procedure, but we neglected to go back and change it in writing in the policy.
If you want to just take it to that level, bring it back in 2 weeks.
Sure, so I'm gonna get rid of the green, but I'm gonna keep the red, and then we can approve it at the next meeting.
Yep.
Okay, got it?
Sounds good. Anything else on that one? No. All right. Item number 10, parent advocacy and access plan. Danny?
This is me. I've done a lot of research about this and been thinking about it for a few months. I see something like this, whether it's a document or a resolution that we might create in policy committee or however we might decide to do that as an easy, quick place for parents and prospective parents interested in enrolling to view our board's commitment to parental rights with some bullet points on what we believe and then an index of the policies and any opt-outs that would pertain to that. In a time where there is some perception that public schools are against parents, I think this could greatly set us apart to attracting kids from the homeschooling community possibly to the St.
already looking at other options that are high school, starting in middle school. I'd like to reach into that community more, and even possible open enrollment for other districts. I've got several examples to share from other districts in Wisconsin who have done this, and I'm willing to spearhead the development and the research that could go into having something work for us. Just a few stats here. Waukesha School District has something similar to this. Watertown Unified School District has an administrative guideline they implemented last November. And Kettle Moraine was actually ordered by a judge to have something in place when a family sued the district for infringing on parent rights with their child and a gender change at school. A little bit more history. Wisconsin legislators have tried twice at legislation like this, and it passed in the House and Senate with Governor Evers vetoing it twice, the latest in 2024. As of March 2023, at least 32 states have proposed legislation known as Parent Bills of Rights, with 26 states adopting education-specific parental bills of rights, and that's per Ballotpedia. There's also been a parental rights amendment to the U.S. Constitution that's been proposed in the past. Ballotpedia says even if there's no statewide statutes regarding parent rights, local districts have passed such resolutions in their districts, and Education Week says individual districts have passed their own versions of these policies, known as Parent Bills of Rights. And as a mini legislative body, I think we could work on this and have it be a good piece of information for families to have everything all in one place, easy to find, what we believe, the policies that pertain to parent rights, and all the opt-outs that parents can choose from.
Dr. Gramble, I don't know how much work or research you got into it. Any kind of immediate thoughts on how does that impact day-to-day operations,
Yeah,
if any?
that's a good question. Not a ton, and especially the way Danny's describing it, it's the first step is to find out what rights already exist and just aggregate them, put them in one place. Okay, here's where they are. There is some language in certain iterations of Parent Bill of Rights that I think are somewhat problematic when it gets into the direction of the day-to-day function of the school. But short of that, we want to certainly celebrate the fact that we are transparent, and I've talked to several of you about this idea. We're not going to go out of our way to police opting out. If there's a family that says, you know what, this is something I'm not comfortable with, our policy says for controversial topics. That's a pretty broad statement, right? Who's to determine what's controversial or not? So we would accommodate those 99.9% of the time. In fact, it's really hard for me to think of a time when we wouldn't. Now, let's say that we had a certain lesson, activity, something, and we're seeing rates of opting out like 10, 12, 15%. Well, then we have to ask ourselves, okay, maybe this one isn't really aligned with what we should be doing. We might need to make an adjustment so we're not in a situation where there's that percentage of families that are concerned. I can tell you that's not been the case. Short of human growth and development, we see very little opting out, but we don't want to hide from it either. So I'm completely supportive of exploring the concept and seeing what we can do to highlight that. And I also agree, Danny, that if we push back on this concept, we're kind of getting ourselves backwards in terms of our intent of saying, you know what, we're proud of what we do. We want it all out there. We want to say, you know what, we think we're creating an amazing program for kids, and here it is. And we know, based on the feedback we get from families, that's what most families feel. They're very happy with the programs we offer. They celebrate what we offer, so we want to have it out there for folks to see.
Any thoughts?
Are you gonna present, like, more specifically what this looks like in the future?
Depends on how everybody feels tonight.
Well, I think working with Dr. Gramble, he's got that experience, and to come up with a plan so that, we can discuss it further. I think it's a great idea. Thank you for your.
Is that something you could
Give
some time to?
Yeah, and Lori and Danny have talked about that a little bit in policy, that I'm glad to help out with policy work however you would like, whatever support you want. I can be a resource for you. Not that I have all the answers, but I can certainly dig around and reach out to my networks and get information, so, yep, absolutely.
I think a
a lot of what Danny is talking about, and I think you even referenced this, that we have a lot of this information already in policy. And really what you're talking about is gathering it and putting it in one spot. Because a lot of it is already in our student handbooks and in our policies and in our all-school handbook.
Would you be able to send Alicia an example of what something would look like? That she could link to the agenda so we can all see it? Just, I guess, what is it? Is it a statement? Is it a pages?
Yep, I have several, I'm wondering if 2 weeks is enough time to, I mean, I have bits and pieces, but, should we do that?
If you have, I would like to see an example, like what does this look like? That we could link to the agenda. Obviously, it would say it's not ours, but it's an example, and then
Sure.
I'd say go to work, and if it's in 2 weeks, great. If it's in 4 weeks, when you're done, bring it back.
Yeah, it might need some time after.
Well,
I
yeah.
strongly ask that it's not in 2 weeks.
Take the time.
There's,
to
yeah,
do
there
it,
are a few things going on right now,
Well,
so.
4 weeks is an
And-
annual budget hearing. too.
Yeah, so we can get past that point, but I mean, certainly you could, I mean, you've got a lot of the work already done. I just don't think I'm gonna have a ton of time between now and annual meeting.
It's not something I wanna rush, I
Right,
want it.
yeah.
And perhaps the three of us would like to meet about it, absolutely, and then put it on the agenda.
Sounds good.
Yeah, my comments on that are just, I really appreciate that topic. It was definitely has been a big one up and down, and I think being proactive about it is much better than being reactive. I think Danny's hunch is right. There's a lot of potential students whose parents would, lean more this way if there was something like that just showed, hey, we're out in front of this, we thought about these, common or even, somewhat occasional concerns that parents have, and kind of just a roadmap to answer their questions quickly. And I would imagine most of it is a language exercise, and like what Dave has always said about a lot of times it's just a language exercise. And sometimes these topics are a little uncomfortable, so we avoid that conversation where 80% of the benefit is just like, let's just agree on what some of these words mean, because sometimes we assume that we disagree, and a lot of times we don't. It's just miscommunication. So I think it's a great exercise.
And getting out in front of it could help enrollment. I mean, the more communication there is, the more we present ourselves as open, it's gonna, bottom line is it's gonna help.
And
Okay.
one more thing, Jesse Dalbert, if there's anything helpful for like special needs that you think would go in there, I'd like to hear that too.
Absolutely.
You'll get an example or two to Alicia, just to link, so we know what we're talking about, and then when you're ready, it'll come back.
Yep, sounds good.
Item number 11, consent agenda. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve any or all of this?
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel update, the athletics activities personnel update, and the donation as presented.
Motion by Lori, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ian. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 12, general information. August 18th is our next regular session, board meeting. There is a listening session 30 minutes prior. And then I will just ask, and probably a combination of everybody, the welcome back dates, open house. Could somebody throw some of those dates out just for the meeting purposes? And we should have put them on the agenda, and I completely forgot till tonight.
Oh, like, welcome back.
Welcome back, open house, any of those key things for families.
It's all on the calendar.
It's on the calendar. Open house is Thursday, the 21st of August. It's a change. We've historically done it on a Wednesday. We're doing it on a Thursday this year. The elementaries will begin at 9 a.m. and run until 7:30. Middle school and high school, 3:30 to 7:30. School pictures will happen at that time. Families will get their notifications of all things next week from principals.
The welcome back newsletters that go out to families, elementary, middle, and high school will be going out on August 12th.
That's teachers, that's all that kind of information?
Correct. And then on Wednesday, the 13th, elementary parents can sign up for their Meet the Teacher time. That link opens up. It's all in the information.
Excellent.
High school student schedules will be viewable in Infinite Campus by the end of this week, if not sooner.
Great. Does anybody else have any other questions about general dates coming up? Okay. Item number 13, district celebrations. Ian, you want to start?
Sure. thank the Somerset Lions for their donation to cover outstanding lunch balances. Thank you all for getting these reports together, and that's a lot of work to explain how much work you've done already. And I guess I'm trying to figure out why she's still here, but thank you, Lindsay, for your
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you so much to Kate Rohrbeck for her 28 years of service to the district. She's been invaluable in her position, a difficult position. Working with middle school kids is always a challenge. And Jen Sutton as well for her 15 years of service to the district.
Okay.
We had a walkthrough tonight for the Performing Arts Center, and that was fantastic, lots of good questions, and Margaret Johnson did a great job presenting everything, and I'm really excited for that to be done.
Great, thanks. Lindsay, thanks for summer school. I had one that attended, and Chef's Academy, so I eagerly awaited every day. She brought me home lunch. She loved it, so thanks for all the time and all the staff that worked there. And then a big thank you to all of you sitting around the room here tonight for all the preparation that goes on in the summertime. Fall sports kicks off tomorrow, right? I think officially, which is crazy that we're already there. So, and then to all of the new staff coming in, if you happen to watch a board meeting, we welcome you. And love to see you succeed. Steve?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, again, talk about how great this Performing Arts Center is gonna be, not just for the school itself, but for the region. I mean, we're a hub here, and the region, our district performing, you know, our school can perform, but also the community can probably rent the facility as well, so that's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it was great to see the Performing Arts Center, very exciting. And again, thanks to the principals for their reports tonight. Great job, really appreciate it.
Thanks. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Motion by Corey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned at 7:40.